Are you okay?
And it would be one thing if these were just two candidates, but you've got Tammy Bowenstein and I.
Are you all okay?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, excellent. So I'm set for you.
Thank God. Okay. Okay. Over to you. Over to you, Joshua.
Okay, ma. Thank you very much, ma. I welcome everyone today to this edition of the Alg Real Advocates October edition. So we'll be starting with the national anthem. So I will just play that now.
Nigerians old and proud to serve our sovereign fatherland. Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign in peace or battle. We count as gain to hang on to our children a banner without stain. Oh God of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build where no man is oppressed, and so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed.
I welcome everyone once again for joining in today's edition, this month's edition of the Real Advocates Dialogue. So we'll be beginning with the welcome address from our father, Pastor Itua Igudalo. You're welcome, sir. Can we give him a round of applause, a virtual round of applause?
Thank you all very much, and God bless you. I'm really glad to be here this evening in this dialogue and this discourse. I'm looking forward to very, very exciting discussions and conversations. And I know that a lot of us will participate very actively so that we can arrive at very, very reasonable conclusions. We need to take on our environment. We need to take on our country, especially those of us that live in Nigeria. And those of us who live in diaspora, we need to set standards and create records for ourselves. The world is turning into a very, very challenging place. We really do not know where the world is going to. And a lot of people who've heard me speak or preach over the last few weeks will be hearing me talk about a total absence of governance, a total absence of direction, a total absence of good behavior and good conduct, and a total absence of credibility in our society. And we need to build a new generation of people who will take on society, who will take on the odds and make sure that we create or recreate our society. So I'm looking forward to very, very exciting conversations today. And I hope that we'll all be able to arrive at some great conclusions. So I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank you all for being part of the African Leadership Group. And I want to thank you all for volunteering yourselves to do these great things. God bless you all. And I am here waiting to listen to you all. God bless you.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your support thus far in empowering us to have discussions like this and learn at the elders' table. Thank you very much, sir. So I will be giving a brief introduction of today's program. The topic for today's program is historical lessons from Nigeria's independence for modern youth development. And what we aim to achieve at the end of this discussion is to see the leadership qualities and strategies of Nigeria's founding fathers and discuss how this can inspire, can set up a drive in the youth of today to be able to achieve ethical and accountable leadership. We have two of our prominent members of the society coming to give us insight into what lessons we can learn from the past that is useful now and in the future. We have Professor Nike Grange, and also we have our dearest auntie, Miss Yemisi Ransom Kuti. So I will be giving a brief intro of who Miss Ransom Kuti is. She is born into the family of late Azariah Olusegun and Mrs. Folorunso Ransom Kuti. Miss Yemisi had her education in both the UK and Nigeria with degrees and diplomas in business management, aesthetic, counseling, and human resource management. She is a mother of 4 and many grandchildren. She was born on 18th December 1947. She is the founding father and executive director of the Nigerian network of NGOs and senatorial candidate for Lagos Central during the 2011 elections, and she has held the following positions: Chief Executive, Ransom Properties, Consultant, World Bank, Second National Urban Water Sector. There are so many positions she has held, and because of our time, I won't be able to dive into it. So, briefly, Ma, we would like you to just give us just a short expose on what you think we can learn from this discussion. Thank you, Ma.
Good afternoon, Joshua. Thank you for that intro. I'm very delighted to be with you guys. The future of Nigeria is you, front and center. So I'm delighted that you thought that we, the elders, can add value to the understanding you have about the process of our independence and what kind of future we should be, or you should be creating for yourself. I'm sure you have all the information about how Nigeria became a constitutional institution, country, after the colonials, the British, left. And one thing you really have to understand is that the independence was achieved through negotiations with Britain, contrasting with other African nations like South Africa and even countries like India that attained their independence through conflict. So the society and institutions in those countries learned the tools of engagement, of resistance, of challenging constitutional authority. We didn't do that. We negotiated our way to our independence. But this, thereafter, we had our civil war. So we've kind of remained a divided nation. That's how the British kind of left us. But when we got the independence, there was so much hope, expectation, euphoria, and pride. Nigerians were respected abroad. I remember when I went to school in England in the 60s, everybody wanted to know about Nigeria, about our history, about who we were, our lifestyle. Some of them were pretty ignorant. They thought we were still living on trees. They did not respect Jamaican immigrants and other nationalities because they didn't see them as countries that were independent. The average Nigerian went to school abroad in those days because their parents sent them. They were independent of society. They were not coming as refugees. They went to study, get their qualification, and come back home to develop their nation. So part of what we've inherited because of that process is what a fella called Kolo mentality. And with that mentality, a lot of the elites were left kind of taking over where the British left off. They felt superior to other Nigerians and looked down on other citizens. And the environment was kind of, we despised our own history. We were more excited about what was being a European. In fact, when I was in school here, before I went abroad, speaking in vernacular, if you spoke your native language, you were punished. So now we speak plenty grammar without quite understanding that influencing actions that positively impacts the lives of the citizens is what is important, not your ability to speak the Queen's English. And in those days, a lot of our mothers used to say, all these educated people, what can we need? It's like, they've read the books, but they don't have the understanding. That's why we cannot translate theory in most cases. Those you young people who are in university now, how do you practicalize the theory you have learned if you have not been taught the practicals during the process? So you'll be talking the grammar, but does not connect with what is actually happening in the society. And we go about wearing suits and ties in the hot sun. Think about that. And whereas Africa is the cradle of mankind, that's something you young people have to understand. The first human beings walked the earth in Africa, and it was other nations that evolved from that. And I mean, just Google it. The common ancestry of the humanity is an African woman, in fact. And of course, the division that came with religion. We're still battling with which religion is superior, whereas our mothers, our forefathers lived very, very harmoniously with each other, all believing in God, and the tenets of religion of spirituality that is in every religion. You know, the number one is love thy neighbor as yourself and love God, you know, and with that, you are able to, irrespective of where you came from by virtue of birth, you know, not often of choice, you are placed, you were able to live harmoniously in your various communities. But religion came to divide us rather. So instead of fostering unity amongst our citizens. So knowledge of our place and in evolution and history is now really important. As I said, Africa is the cradle of mankind, and all nations descended from mitochondrial Eve. She's the most recent common female ancestor of all living humans, through whom all living humans inherited their mitochondrial DNA. So post-independence, we kind of lost all that. And when we fought the military, that's another very key element that we must, you know, and young people must understand. We didn't organize ourselves as a political groupings like they did in South Africa when they formed the ANC. The ANC, the South Africans that fought and got rid of the military, also had a political alternative to replace it. We didn't have that. So let me stop here as an intro before I go into some of the things I think you young people should now begin to do to reorientate, reorganize, and be in a better position to take the nation to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. That was very insightful. So I'll be bringing on Professor Nika Grange. She's a professor in the health space, and she's someone that has worked in across the top level organizations in the world when it comes to health. So I'll be bringing her up now to give us just little insights on what we are to learn from today's discussion. You have the floor now, Professor.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm so excited that I'm participating in this webinar where the youth are actually very, very interested in knowing about the past, their history, and what they can, how they can make use of what has been done before to make them do better in future. And let me thank my sister, Honorable Yemisi. Yeah, yes, so my dear, you are supposed to have been distinguished Yemisi, you know, but that is life. Now, thank you very much for that intro. You know, I'm just going to say a few more words to consolidate on the intro, and then you'll take it forward from there. From your intro, I think what you have made us realize is that the way we acquired our own independence was probably not in a favor of us making good use of it. It was in a haphazard manner, and so we just kept going like that in a haphazard manner. And you know, people who now organize coups and all that, they didn't really understand what had been happening before independence. You know, they didn't realize that to have an independence is something really of great value to a country. You know, all they wanted was power. And this is the problem. What has been happening to us is because what everybody that has tried to lead this country wanted was power. Power for themselves. They really have not understood why they should have power, why it is better to get that power to benefit the people of the country, of those who have given them the power. So that is our problem. This is what we are dealing with now. The first people who got the power tried, Awolowo, Zeke, etc. They tried, but at that time, I don't know whether, again, there was a division. Each of them was thinking of himself as somebody who would have power, and it's a pity that they did not negotiate among themselves to harmonize and share the power. It is a question of sharing power. Somehow it was not possible, and that was why the military now came in and got autocratic power. And of course, you all know what happened, subsequently. The autocratic power is a selfish power. They would, they definitely did not think so much about the people. They thought more about themselves, and they had the guns and things to be able to show us that yes, they had the power, and there was nothing we could do about it. So let's think about it in that way. That is, everybody is really trying to get power. Now we've come to the electorate, we've come to democracy, where we want to give power to leaders who can lead us properly. Now, democracy dictates that those who will give that power will be the electorate. Unfortunately, the electorate is not that enlightened. That is the problem again, So an unenlightened electorate will choose poor leaders. And as you are seeing now, and our poor leaders, of course, will now they exploit the fact that the electorate is not enlightened, and they exploit the power that they have. They now use the power that they have for themselves again. And so it goes on. So what we need to find out now, what we need to know now is, how do we get our leaders to understand that that power that they have has been given to them by the electorate and by God and by electorate, all of them, if they still believe in God, then it is possible for us to change their mind about the power, using telling them that it is God that has given them the power. Most of them say that they believe in God, but actually they don't. They don't. They think that they are God. They are God's Almighty. The way they behave with the power is that they have seized the power, and they think that there's nothing they cannot do. So we have to explore that area and see that this power tussle, this power thing, is now being treated properly, is being explored and understood and used in favor of the electorate, the masses. Thank you. I want to stop there. I'm sure that my dear sister Yemisi will be able to take us much further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ma. I will still come back to you, but I want to go to Madam Yemisi now. She said something about we using dialogue to kind of bring our own independence. And I also noticed that, okay, we did not use the non-violent tactics like other countries. We used dialogue, legal channels to negotiate for autonomy to get our democracy, our independence, I mean. So my question for Madam Yemisi now is, looking at the way we got our democracy, in what ways can non-violent approaches be effective, especially in this era where immediate action often gets more results or more attention? So how do we use this, how do I call it, this peaceful or dialogue way and get results and get immediate action? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Professor Grange. I'm going to start calling myself distinguished. Abba.
Yeah.
You know,
Deserve it, my darling. You deserve it.
We love titles.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to the story. Your first comments, Professor Grange, about the fact, let me start with that, the founding fathers, and the fact that you thought, they wanted power. My own perception and understanding of that time was that I think the founding fathers may have been patriots. Yes, they wanted power, but they wanted it for the people. And you could see from the initial programs they started to develop with, Awolowo, the Southwest education, Sardauna, with his program for the poor. He was very much focused on elevating the status of the poor people in the North. I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt that they genuinely wanted to rescue Nigeria from the clutches of colonialism out of patriotic intentions. And it's possible that they did quite understand and were probably divided on the various approaches and what is needed to develop such a diverse nation like ours. I want our young people to understand that Nigeria is like 10 countries in one. You can go to a part of Nigeria and you are in completely different milieu with the language, with the culture, with the understanding and the worldview and everything. So we are trying to merge several countries as one. And if we achieve it, we would have succeeded above every other nation. So this is a challenge, I think, for young people to understand that pursuit of cohesion, of promoting unity, of seeing the strength in our diversity is a real golden opportunity to show the world that Africa is not like other places where Europe is still fighting itself. Look at what's happening in Ukraine. Look at what Mr. Trump is doing in America, talking about the enemy within and all the rest of that. Mm-hmm. So that understanding that a democracy works best when the citizens have the education and the capacity to manage for the people, by the people part of democracy. They may not have quite been able to successfully handle that part, or they didn't have enough time to manage the system until it got to that level where the democracy kind of runs itself, because enough people have the capacity intellectually, they have the capacity in the skill sets, in their mental acuity and ability to run systems. because it's systems that run democracy. In autocracies, the king says, this is what I want, and everybody has to do it. In democracies, for it to succeed, the head should not matter too much. Yes, it's good to have a good leader, but the system itself is what controls and ensure the deliverables. The system runs because there are capable people at every level. The leadership at every level is working and is delivering because the system says this is how it should deliver, and there are consequences if that person who's responsible for delivery does not perform. And you also said, how do we get our leaders to understand that power is given by the people and, of course, the Almighty? I think the first thing we have to understand is leaders come from people. I'm always having a battle in my own mind as to who is more responsible, the leaders or the followers, because it is within the pool of citizens who are the followers that leaders emerge. And the young people too have to kind of study. You have to be more cerebral about understanding history. The Europeans did not get where they are, or the Americans did not get where they are, or the Indians, or the Chinese, just by it happening. If you read their history, there was a lot of struggle. The mistakes we're making were made by them. If people remember the potato riots in Ireland, where the people rose up, if you remember the revolution in France, where because the price of bread went sky high, people were just killing everybody on the streets. The bloodiest revolution in history was in France. And that ties into the question by Joshua about dialogue and negotiation. Okay, Gandhi was a great example of Mahatma Gandhi, of how you use non-violent means. And also we had our own Martin Luther King in America, and Nelson Mandela in South Africa, where you had leaders who were saying, first of all, I must sell the ideas of change, of reform to the citizens. Because if you don't have the citizens behind you, since you are not the king like in a monarchy, you're not going to succeed. So leaders like the ones I've mentioned first sold the idea. They took the time to sell the idea of what kind of vision they had to the people. And it's a 24/7 crusade. You become a martyr to that vision. And ensuring that the people understood, the people were committed, and were ready to make the sacrifice that is needed. I remember when we were doing the sit at home, if you all remember, during the military era, when, first of all, that succeeded because there was a genuine coalition between civil society, the labor unions, and other groups who were also aware and understood and believed that you cannot be a slave in your own country. You had to have a system where freedom, which is the right of every human being, is respected, that you cannot be a slave. How the fella say? How people not go, no, they not born me as slave when he's in his beast of no nation. Please go and listen to that record. Where the rights of every human, which is written in our constitution, in most constitutions, says that liberty and freedom is the birthright of every human being. So having gotten that kind of understanding amongst the people, which is again what young people must teach themselves, must teach others, and respect others, their own rights too. You cannot say your own belief system is it. Because if the Almighty wanted us to only do one thing, that's how the world would have been created. We'd all have been white or black, and we would all have been, geared to believe in just one thing, because we were created higher than the animals. The animals was created to be limited to be able to do just one thing. If you talk to a dog, it will not speak back to you. If animals, each category of animal, fish, we know how they behave, and that's how they will live the rest of their lives. Human beings were born with that extra element of free will to choose differently, to be different from one another. And that is why one of the greatest messages is love God with all your heart and soul, and thy neighbor as yourself. So creating that love system. So that takes me to my submission as to what to do, young people, what to do. I have 7 C's that I think young people should write down and try to understand.
Okay.
The first one, you want me to start here?
Respectfully, ma. Can you hear me, ma?
I can hear you, yes. Do you
Okay,
want me to
before you go into the 7 C's,
okay.
Professor Green to come, because there's a question as regards education that that came to mind, and before I lose my train of thought, I would like her to respond to that. Okay, so we say education is needed to have a more informed society. So what can we do? What can young people do? In what ways can we address the challenge of information or even disinformation or lack of access to quality education, particularly to under-resourced areas, Professor?
Okay. I don't know whether you want me to speak or you want to get those who have put their hands up to speak first. Do you want me to speak now?
Okay, for those who have their hands up,
Yes.
we'll get to you. Ma, you can continue.
Okay.
Yeah, you can speak now.
Right. Again, so we are coming gradually to what you as a youth can do. I personally, feel that, first of all, you have to educate yourselves. First, you have to understand yourselves. What do you want in life? What do you want? Do you want to stay in Nigeria and help to build Nigeria, to develop Nigeria, or you want to go? Those who want to go, they are free to go because that is the freedom of democracy. You have to decide for yourself that if you stay, you are going to have to make sacrifices. This is the problem. There's no way, there's no two way about it. Staying in Nigeria means making sacrifices because we are at this level where, nothing is working and you want to make it work. To make it work, it means that you have to immerse yourself in the process of making it work. And to do that, of course, you have to make sacrifices. Let me include among the heroes, Fela. Fela used what he had, his talent, to speak out to the government and to the people, But of course, nobody was listening. He was making sacrifices. Fela could have been a very rich man today, but I'm sure that Auntie Yemisi will tell us that Fela doesn't have much in Nigeria, So he made that supreme sacrifice to use his talent to speak out against injustice. All his records about injustice, getting justice for the people, you know. So what do you have? What talent do you have? Is it to speak, to write, to, to walk, organize walks, or whatever? These are the non-violent ways of speaking to government, of telling government. And if somebody is doing it, and doing it very well, you need to join in, and draw attention of the people to that particular person. Don't if you now want to try and compete with that person, it's just fragmenting the whole message. So we need to try and see how to identify those who are doing the right thing and join them. And if you have an initiative which you feel has not been expanded, then start it and get other people to join you. Having said that, getting to know yourself has to do with emotional intelligence. You don't even need to have gone to university or any place of higher learning to get this emotional intelligence. It is supposed to be developed in you as you come up with experiences, life experiences. Emotional intelligence means you are being aware of your own self, of your emotions, and how to manage those emotions. How to manage the fact that somebody has abused you and you want to abuse him back. Now, yes, if you abuse him back in the same way, you may escalate the whole situation. And at the end of the day, nobody has won. So you want to do it in a way that somehow you are teaching the other person a lesson. And that is, let me give you an example. I'm having to deal with a very difficult situation in an organization. The person who is supposed to produce certain things for us is very reluctant, like a letterhead, and said that, oh, everybody should try and do this. So we got somebody else to do it. And then at the end of the day, the person was supposed to write on the letterhead, but he did not use the letterhead. So now said, look, why have we gone through all this process of producing a letterhead which you will not use? Oh, he said, oh, he's very sorry that his phone got messed up, and so he still does not have the letterhead. Now, I believe him totally. But suppose I had said to him, hey, you are not helping us, of course, he will also get angry, And this is what I mean by using emotional intelligence. I just said to myself, look, it's not correct, but there must be a reason why he's not using this letterhead. And then he came out with a reason. I was so relieved. That's just one instance. I'm sure Auntie Yemisi has many instances where she has had to handle tricky situations which could lead to bad consequences. That is what we are calling emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence means that you first of all explore the situation and find out, now, what is the problem here? Why is that person behaving that way? And so on and so forth. So I don't know whether I have answered your question, because we were on education. This is education. Educating yourself to be able to respond appropriately to other people's behavior, that doesn't quite tally with yours. Okay. So, and it's such a lot of it. It is there all over. In a day, you could count like 4 or 5 up to 10 times where you are talking to someone and that person is not understanding you, but will not say so, but responds in a way that will make you angry. It happens in families, between mother and child, between us all, between siblings, all that. So it just means that you have to develop that power of emotional intelligence. That's another power, of emotional intelligence, to be able to deal with the aberrant behavior. I don't want to say bad, aberrant behavior of other people. Shall I stop there? I think so.
Okay, very much.
Okay.
I really advise the question I asked. So moving
Yes.
back to
Sorry. I didn't answer the question. Can you just tell me what question it is again?
okay, I was saying how can we use education? How can we take education to people? And you mentioned about, first of all, we have to start with educating ourselves, because it is when we ourselves are educated that we can even educate others. So that really answers the question. So
Okay.
I'm moving on to Miss Yamisi.
Sorry, let me
And
sorry, to educate yourself, you have to know yourself. That
yes,
that's part of what I said. You have to know
also
yourself.
need that.
Okay. Right.
So, you were about to give us some points for us to take, and I think my question is aligns with the point you were trying to make. And I wanted to ask you, what specific qualities or values, because we know that okay, these people fought for our independence, and there are not everything we can pick from them, but what are those certain things that we can pick from them and use today so that we can be better leaders?
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Professor. That point about emotional intelligence is really, really important. And I find that a lot of people who are not educated, they are not gone to formal schooling, they're not particularly certificated, they didn't go to higher education. They have a lot of emotional intelligence and are able to manipulate a lot more effectively than even those who went to study at higher levels. Your point about education, the simple answer is we definitely need to reform our education system in Nigeria. It's not fit for purpose. A lot of us who have businesses or institutions, when you hire graduates, you kind of want to knock your head against the wall to say, why did I do this to myself? Because I now have to go through the process of teaching, re-educating that person to fit into the world of work. So that has to happen at the national, state, local levels in terms of making the curricula fit for purpose to address our own socioeconomic needs. And then as young people who's benefiting already from levels of education that masses of young people in Nigeria do not have the advantage of having, find time to either take some classes in schools that will allow you to do that, even in your own school or your own institution, to communicate and find little fora where you educate each other. And then there are some universities that do outreaches. You now identify a community where you have some arrangement with either some schools there or some religious institution there, where on a Saturday or whichever free day you have during the holidays, you have your own little classes where even the little that you know, well, the much that you know, I know you know a lot, you can find ways of bridging the gap between those young people who are out of school, a lot of them, well, you can teach them just the basics, read and write and arithmetic, just the basic. Coding does not need grammar and education. You can have little classes in your own communities to make sure that education is spread, is widespread. And while you're educating them, you can also bring in all these lessons around leadership, around ethical behavior, around, all these other things we've been talking about, the history of Africa, the history of Nigeria, the history of the world, natural history. I think we don't teach that enough. Nature has all the answers. A lot of the scientific discoveries we're having today in the world are directly garnered from nature itself. The Almighty has created a marvelous world, and we're not exploiting and understanding enough of it so that we can now use, the way animals behave, the way plants behave, the way nature itself behaves, the various humongous health and other elements that nature has in abundance that can take care of a whole huge swathe of our problems. So those are my ideas about education that I think you can take on. But regarding the other kind of tools you need, I talked about the 7 C's. And the first is consciousness. The second is capacity. The third is conscience. The fourth is commitment. The fifth is collaboration. The sixth is camaraderie. And the seventh is compassion. Consciousness, and I think my dear Prof mentioned this, the knowledge about how the world works, how the world was created. You cannot interact effectively with the system that you don't know. How was the world created? So find time to understand, and as we are, even at this stage, new things are being discovered about our world, black holes and, the marvels of the galaxies, So find out how the world was created, how the world works, how nature works. It's almost magical, but it's not magic. Once you understand the processes and the elements that are interacting with each other, you have this wide knowledge of who you really are, how you came to be this one special and fantastic and wondrous human being. The process took millennia, millions of years for us to get to where we are. So it's important for you to understand that who you are, your intellectual capacity.
To cut you short. Okay, I'm sorry to cut you short. Pastor Itwa might leave the call soon, so I want him to say a few words. Okay, sir, Pastor.
I'm not sure he's still online.
Okay.
He just came back. Sorry, his network is flunked.
I was out. My network is a bit faulty. What were you asking me? Hello.
Okay, sir. We wanted to say a few words just in case your network just
goes away, disappears.
It's okay. I have been listening to the conversations, and I want to really thank God for both my sister, Sister Yemisi, and Dr. Grange. I think it's very difficult for you all to have better sets of experience in terms of how Nigeria was, the founding of Nigeria, the things that we've been through, and the comparative analysis with India, South Africa, and countries like that. I keep saying most of the time that Nigeria and Africa, they were designed to fail. And here you have on the platform people who actually witnessed the transition, the history, the independence of Nigeria, and the trajectory that we've been through. So, of course, the British who founded us didn't think we would succeed. They didn't plan for us to succeed. And they wanted consistently for us to be a source of cheap raw material for them. But you see, what my Bible tells me is that what the devil meant for evil, God turns to good. And I think God had a deliberate plan for Nigeria, and he has decided to turn things for good in Nigeria and to really put the devil to shame. And that's what. And he has decided to really put the devil to shame in Nigeria and see how he can sort us out. What has bothered me, though, is the level of selfishness, the level of greed, the level of corruption that Nigeria now found itself in post-independence, and the inability of most of us Nigerians, my generation inclusive, to come together to turn the situation of Nigeria around. And this is the challenge that I want to throw to you guys at your age and your level. Number one, Nigeria is not a mistake. God had a great plan for the entire world, and Nigeria was part of that plan. So colonialism and all that, somehow they're painfully part of God's plan. Number two, Nigeria has great and outstanding resource. I'll repeat that again. Great and outstanding resource that, if well managed, can turn us very, very quickly into a first world country. Number three, Nigeria has fantastic human beings, very, very intelligent, very, very competent, very, very capable, very, very determined, and very, very, excuse me, and very, very resourceful. Very, very, very resourceful. So if only we could get our people going in a certain dynamic and in a certain way, we will truly have a very, very outstanding country. And this is where people of your generation, the up and coming ones, should begin to look. Number, that you are not going to leave or abandon Nigeria, that you all are going to unite together and shame the devil, and you all are going to come together to make the country truly great. So it means that you must all work hard to get a first-class education. You must all work hard to be focused. You must all work hard to get your ethics and morality and moral value back. And that is why we have this platform called Real Platform, trying to set people's minds and direction in the way by which they can really do great things and they can really prosper in this Nigeria that God has so cleverly, and I use the word so cleverly, given to us, very, very cleverly, without the devil realizing that God played a trick even on the devil. So I want you all to be encouraged. I want you all to be prepared. And I want you all to work very hard to truly make Nigeria great and outstanding. And those are my comments at this point in time. And I do pray and believe that by God's grace, all will be well in Jesus' name. Let me thank Professor Grange. Let me thank my sister, Auntie Yemisi, for their love and their commitment to this enterprise called Nigeria. And let me say to them that we're determined to make something out of this country, and we will, by God's grace. Thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of the conversation. God bless you all.
Thank you,
Thank,
Pastor. Thank you very much.
thank you, sir. So, Ma, yeah, I would like you to continue, but just with the insights you're about to share with us, I would like you to also shed light on this as you also give us the closing remark from your conversations, so we can have other people ask questions and comments. So I noticed that independence was like a drive for self-sufficiency. But if we look at the way our country is going and our country is run, we can see that we have heavy reliance on external aid or support. So how can we tap from that drive, or what can we do so that that drive that led us to independence, we can actually say, Nigeria can stand on its own and be self-sufficient? Because the last conversation on the Real Advocates platform, we talked about agriculture, and I know that's one of the ways we can be self-sufficient. We can feed ourselves. So what are the other ways we can, or will I say, reignite that drive for self-sufficiency? Thank you, Ma.
Thank you, Joshua. To be self-sufficient means you can do things for yourself. That's the basic understanding of being an independent human being. You're not relying on everybody. You are able to take care of your needs yourself. And one of the most important things that I have noticed is that, and one of the legacies of the colonials, is to have developed the Western taste in us. If we're not wearing Western clothes, we like Western food, we like Western products. We are happier to be in a Gucci shoe than one made in Nigeria. In fact, you look down on somebody who comes in the Ankara and the Adire or Akwete cloth, So I think all of us, the government can do what it can. We know a lot of policies that the Central Bank of Nigeria is putting in place is trying to redress that demand for foreign exchange. This is one of our biggest problems, the demand for foreign exchange. So each one of you must have that understanding that every time you are buying or using foreign products, you are contributing to the problem. So we have to change our taste. We have to patronize made in Nigeria goods. We have to be productive, and that is another number, very extremely important aspect of the reason why we're not where we should be. We're not productive. A lot of our graduates go into fields that is not particularly at this point in our development relevant to our development. A lot of young people don't want to go to the farms. A lot of young people don't want to learn skills that use their hands to produce something. Look at me, I'm wearing a Nigerian made outfit. It's made by the hands of a Nigerian. I wear it proudly. Whenever I travel, my suitcase is filled with Nigerian goods. I want to show the world that we have, fantastic products here. And the Europeans admire you when you go abroad and you are in your tie and suit. They don't quite respect you as much as when you are in your, African wear. Even if it's not the full agbada, because that one is clumsy and, doesn't look quite official. And that's why I like Mr. President. Whenever he goes abroad, you see him in an African attire. Let's be proudly Nigerian. That's what we can do as citizens and what we can advocate, that there are processes and there's so many things that you young people must find ways of finding out. So many programs that the government has developed to encourage entrepreneurs to learn the skills of producing, to learn the skills of technical capacity to be a great plumber, a great electrician, a great artisan. If you just think about it, what do you need as a human being to live a reasonably good life? You need to wear clothes. You need to, shoes and all of that. You need to eat. You need to have a roof over your head, and that roof over your head should have light. You should have electricity. You should have plumbing. So all those little, just get down to basics. What is it in the community? What is it as each and every one of us as individuals? What do we use? What do we need? If we are addressing those things and making sure that we have the capacity, instead of looking for, I remember there at a time you could not find a good Nigerian plumber. You had to look for Ghanaian one. So Nigerians themselves must be interested in learning those things, not just the intellectual bit and talking nice grammar, the things that are actually relevant to a productive economy. So that's something I think that is really very important. Once we come down on our demands for foreign goods, we will have addressed the FX distortion, and young people must be, become more innovative about how do you create systems and technical solutions to your using local tools, local materials. Look around you and see how you can solve problems with local solutions without having to import everything. We import everything, pins, rubber, everything. If you are young people are on the platform, look at yourself and say, okay, which one that is it I'm wearing that is Nigerian? And many people will not find it. So that is a huge challenge to all of us, particularly young people, to begin to think, to be Nigeria-centric and look for solutions that are Nigerian originated, innovations that are right here. All the fintech solutions that a lot of the fintech solutions, Flutterwave, Palm Pay, and all of that came from the minds of Nigerians. So you have to look. You cannot just depend on what the foreigners have developed in their own country and dumped on you, because most of the time, every time we're using their own product, we are servicing something. Every time you use Zoom or whatever it is, they're collecting your data. They're using it for whatever it is they need it for. So let's develop some homegrown solutions that will solve our problems in the shortest possible time. And that is a responsibility for all of us. So let me quickly just go back to those elements that I said you guys must have. Find out who you are, your intellectual capacity, your talent, and how you can deploy it most effectively to achieve your goals and solve societal challenges. Because life is a problem-solving exercise. Problems will come until the earth is no more. Challenges is part of life, and please embrace it. Don't feel that, oh God, why me and all of that. No. It's part of life. It was never supposed to be a paradise and where we're just roaming around doing nothing. We're all supposed to come here and be co-creators, problem solvers, and do our own bit and leave the rest. Another challenge is going to come that we have not even seen before. Who thought of COVID would hit us? But did we have the intellectual capacity to address it? No, because we didn't expect it. We should be a country, a group of people that know that that life is about solving problems. Every day, as soon as you open your eyes, problems are going to come. So get yourself ready. Auntie Grange was talking about emotional intelligence. It's that resilience within you that allows you to deal with challenges and laugh and say, oh gosh, okay, another thing has come. How do I solve it? Instead of going into a tailspin of despair and depression, this, that, and the other, complaining and lamenting. Let's move that out of the way. So your talent, deploy to solve problems, these sorts of things work in institutions that are efficient and it's not by miracle. So whatever you are doing to learn about systems, learn about how systems work, even in your own life, make sure that you systematize what you do. Have your little notebook where you write down your to-do list, what do you do first before you do this and all of that. Become somebody whose mind is about systems and solving problems, so that as soon as the problem comes, your mind has been trained. The brain is the most important tool that you have. Training that mind to immediately switch to, what do we do? Plan A, plan B, plan C, and move is something you have to develop. The second thing is your capacity. Poverty or wealth isn't in your bank account. It's what's between your ears. And so intellectual rigor is important. You must find that time to really make sure you develop your mind and intellect and open it up. Don't be closed. Be able to embrace new ideas. Don't get stuck into, the groupings and the ideas of the past. Begin to think differently about how you are going to be part of this solution that we're talking about. And critical thinking is essential. You must be somebody, please Google it, find out what critical thinking, if you're not already doing it, what critical thinking is about, so that you are able to solve problems easily, much more easily. Your mind is geared towards identifying areas that other people may not have gone into and coming up with new solutions. And one very fantastic word that I learned in a conference is called responsibility. We all keep telling you, young people, to be responsible, but you also have to be responsible, so that when opportunities come, you are able to embrace it. If I ask one of you now to become the CEO of Access Bank, are you able to do it? The opportunity has been offered to you, but you can't take it up because you don't have the capacity to do that. So you
Did her network freeze?
Okay, I think our network full.
Yes.
Okay, so anytime we get back, Professor Nike, please can you give us your final thoughts? And
Yes. Taking the cue from Auntie Yemisi, yes, we have to look forward. But in looking forward, we think of the failures of the past. I remember that Nigeria was actually going to become self-reliant. Let me try and think of the years. In the years between 1970 and 1990, there was that was when oil was discovered and money was flowing. Even globally, the economy was much better. So in Nigeria at that time, we had the beginning of our industries. We had butter industry. You know, they were making shoes for us. We had agro industries. They were making, let me try, drinks from things that were grown, even pineapples and all those things, and they were exporting them. They were being exported. We had dairy industry from the north. They were making cheese, all sorts of things, which is what people wanted because they have seen that these things are being eaten abroad and all that, and they wanted to eat as well. But we actually were making them ourselves. But what happened was that those who were making them were not making profit. There was no basic infrastructure. That was the problem. No basic infrastructure. And those, our leaders, unfortunately, did not focus on providing the basic infrastructure that will make those industries thrive. And that was why they died. Nigeria has had industries before. The one that should have been developed that was not developed was the palm oil, which Malaysia came to find out could be developed and could make a lot of money. Don't forget that the reason we were now not developing all these basic products is because they found oil. As soon as the oil was found, unfortunately, our attention was distracted. It was now not focused on what we were trying to do with our natural products. Okay, what about groundnuts in the north? There were pyramids of groundnuts, and we were making our own groundnut oil and all those things, So, but because we found a product which the entire world needed, and you could get easy money from it, that was where we became derailed. Unfortunately for us, our leaders did not think of it as a trap. It was a trap. And if they had known that this was a trap and, we could continue to develop ourselves from the proceeds of even the oil, and don't be too greed, as Pastor Itua has said, greed came into it. And people were now getting a lot of money from that natural resource, the oil. So again, we have to learn from the past. Now we have found that the oil economy is not getting us to where we want to get to. And we have to take up from there. And you young ones need to start thinking of how do we take off from there, knowing what you know about the capacity of Nigeria, that the resources are there to develop other products. So I think that is probably just trying to put together all that you have heard from Pastor Itua, from Auntie Yemisi, from myself, to know that you have to open your eyes, open your mind, and learn comprehensively. When you are learning your doing your academic work, start to think of how can this be applied in real life. The other day we had a wonderful lecture. Well, it was not supposed to be a lecture, but it was a lecture on electricity, and it reminded me of the physics that we try to learn in college, in schools and college, about the physics. Physics was taught at that time in a way that actually did not make you become interested in it. If you know that it can be applied to real life situations, it will be much easier to pick up the lessons there and apply them. So in that lecture that we got, we could pick up the lessons. The professor told us in basic terms why it is that electricity, we are not getting power in Nigeria. Why are we not getting electricity? And it makes a lot of sense. I'm not going to go through all that. I think we should get you should get the recording of that lecture and learn from it. It is very, very, very important that you begin to link things up. What you heard, what you hear academically, what you learn academically should be linked up to what you would like to do in real terms, to help develop Nigeria. I think that is, where I would like to leave it. There are so many other examples. Go and learn about them. Examples of how, yes, I remember now, the drinks that were made, some of them were made from cola nuts. Auntie Yemisi can bear me out. Cola nut drinks, were made, and they were selling a lot abroad. We were actually exporting until, these people came with their oil politics and destroyed everything. What we had already started to do became, they tried, they were no longer interested. And we unfortunately fell into that trap of not continuing to do our own thing and to sell it out. India did not do so. India today is surviving because they are using their endogenous, products. They are making their medicines and exporting medicines to us. We have the raw materials, we have everything to make medicines, but we are not doing so. The first time that in the past we were treating malaria with the cinchona bark from the tree of the cinchona plant. That was how our ancestors were treating malaria, and it was working. The only problem was that there was they were unable to measure how much should be given. Obviously, it was a trial and error type of thing. But all we needed to do was to make it better. Instead, we allowed the outside world to develop that area too. And we now import the malaria drugs. Whereas malaria drugs were first found here, where the malaria was, or is. It is still there today. I understand that Egypt has now been given a certificate of malaria eradication in their country. They have eradicated malaria. What is wrong with us? Why can't we eradicate our malaria? Again, partly because we have to depend on expensive drugs, and partly because we are not looking at our environment. Malaria is an environmental disease, but we are not paying attention to our own environment, unfortunately. So there we are. These are all areas where you need to look into, but you will not be looking into them if you continue to imbibe just the the Western education, you know, Western, Eastern, education from everywhere, put them together, include your own initiatives, and you will do much better. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma, for that. We are past our time already for this discussion, but I would like Madam Yemisi to, in 1 minute, just summarize what she was about to say before the network went off, and then we'll take comments from people, our questions. Thank you.
Sorry, I was caught off. Part of our dependence on, technology and possibly our incapacity to manage it. We need to develop professionals, people who are professionals to the core. So acquiring the relevant skills, AI, I hope all of you are trying to learn AI, financial literacy, and moving from begging other people for money to being credit worthy so that you can access loans from the bank yourself and lead it by example. Your ethics and values are critical. Your ability to discipline yourself, not just wait for other people to tell you what is right or wrong. My father sent me a book when I was in school called The Art of Self-Control. It's a lifelong thing. Learning to control yourself makes you, it makes it possible for you to, when you get to the position of authority, you will be able to reject the temptation of joining the corrupt masses or the corrupt leadership that we have at the moment, and love what is good, hate what is bad, even in yourself, and reject it wherever you come across it. You cannot allow circumstances to just move you here and there. Stick with your principles. Start with yourself. Enforce it in your home, in your community, in your groupings and social communities, etc., etc. Make sure you commit yourself to this journey. It's a long-term thing. You must stay the course. There are no quick fixes, no miracles. Know that unless you stay the course, you will not get there. And you must collaborate with others, network. You can't do these things alone. And please, please, enjoy yourself, enjoy the journey. Have good, rewarding relationships. Enjoy music, dance, have a healthy lifestyle. Keep fit. Laugh at life. It is supposed to be fun. Enjoy the journey. And make sure that what matters is that the positive memories and relationship we build, not the amount of money that's in a bank. Have compassion for others, respect for others. Don't be abusive, but people cursing each other, those kinds of words should not come out of anybody's mouth. Discipline yourself to shut up when you are angry, because that's at the time you say things that you cannot change. So learn how to manage conflict and respect others' people's points of view, and love for your fellow man and woman, and contribute to uplifting your community, nation, and mankind in general. Ubuntu is the African culture, not individualism. It is not so important that you become the most important lawyer or doctor or the richest businessman in any community. It's your ability to impact your community, your nation positively, and setting the right example and making sure that everyone is lifted up. You cannot be okay in the midst of suffering and deprivation. And I believe in you guys. I know you have the capacity. And I can tell you that if you follow the rules of right and wrong, you will make it in Nigeria. Jackbuying is not the solution. Those who are jackbuying, you think you are making sacrifices here. Go and meet the sacrifice in Europe or Britain. Anybody will tell you. It's just different types of sacrifice. There's nowhere in the world. The Queen of England is complaining. Is it the king now? Okay, the queen is dead. the king is complaining. Joe Biden is complaining. Kamala Harris is complaining. Life is always going to be problematic. So know that the place that the Almighty has put you is the place that you can best flourish and where you can best contribute to fulfilling your own destiny and the destiny of the nation to which you belong. God bless you all. I wish you all the best. And as you know, we, the elders who are on our way out, are right behind you, loving you, respecting you, and believing in your capacity to make Nigeria the Nigeria of our dreams. Thank you very much for having me today. And I look forward to hearing lots of good stories about what you are doing to contribute to making the independence that we fought for a reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much, Professor Grange. Really appreciate you sharing with us all you have given us today. So we'd like to mention some special guests in our midst that honored our invitation. We have Mr. Said Adileye. You're welcome, sir. We also have Dr. Nelson Aloya is here with us. Also, an honorable mention is Dr. Gani Udada. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation and coming to our discussion. So I can see some hands up. Oh, Dr. Nelson, one of our special guests. Please, sir, in 2 minutes, just your comments or questions that you have for us. Thank you, sir.
Oh, sorry, let me unmute them. I had, because of hackers, let me make sure that they're unmuted. Apologies for that. And go ahead, sir, you can unmute yourself now.
Yes, thank you so much.
And start your
Sis.
video if you want to. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. I mean, everything has been said, and I can't thank our very esteemed Sister Yemisi and Professor Grinch for such wonderful and very erudite elderly discussion today. But I'll say two things and a challenge to both of them. One, like Pastor Issa said, Nigeria is not a mistake. Two, we are where we are because chosen to be who we are, where we are. So at this time,
Did we lose Dr. Nelson?
sorry, we see what the British have done. We see what the British have done by so eloquently and brilliantly continuing colonialism by a way of building what they call the Commonwealth. But the French did it in a different form. And unfortunately, their influence was so much deploring to the system of why we still have where the French are connected to the French government or the French people in essence. But as a people, we must also understand that we have moved forward. We've evolved as a nation, and we have had growing pains. And those pains are what has led us to where we are, and even to this meeting today. The fight is still on. We're still on the march, and I appreciate every word that has been said today. And I often say, if you hear good news, like an African adage, if you hear good news, you listen with both ears. But you just don't listen alone. You carry that message and spread the message around so that it becomes impactful and will provide results that would eventually enhance the works that we've done. And in conclusion with what esteemed Sister Yemisi said, we hope that what you've heard today would eventually lead to a Nigeria that we all deserve. Understanding that it does not take everybody to get the work done. Change often comes, but by the determined will of a selected few. And that's how it is. So, but my challenge to both Sister Yevisi and Professor Grinch, what you guys have said today ought to be said in a bigger, larger platform. But what you need to do, and I'm glad this is being recorded, both of you should sit down, put this into a book. This book will sound as a testament of what you and your experiences, because at the end of it all, both of you live through the process pre-independence and independence and where we are today. So you have a whole lot of story that has to be told. And that story has to be written down and put on paper so that in the future, on print or however, so that future generations that will come would listen, read, and hear from you. And that's my submission. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for that. So we'll also be inviting Mr. Said to also give us a few words in a minute, 2 minutes, so we can wrap up.
Mr. Said, we've asked you to unmute. Okay, please go ahead, sir. Can you guys hear him or is it me?
Oh, we can hear him as well.
Okay.
Okay, because of our time, we're moving on to...
I think he's back on now. Mr.
Okay, he's back.
Mr. Adeleye. Yeah, we can't hear you. Is it maybe it's your audio or you're not connected to, are you connected to audio? We can't hear you. Can he hear us? Okay. Okay, on mute now.
Let's
okay.
While we wait for Mr. Said, let's bring up Dr. Ganiu to speak to us.
He's no longer online. Dr. Ganiu is not online, so maybe you can take the hands that are up.
Okay, I'll be calling on Esoe. Sorry, I don't want to pronounce the name wrongly. Esoe, please.
That's big auntie.
Yeah. Okay, hello. Yeah, this is Adeswa. My name is Adeswa. Good evening.
Auntie, 1 second. We have Mr. Soe on, and then you will go next.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
can you hear me? Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here, and I've listened to everything that our distinguished speakers said, and I just wanted to make a few comments, just to throw a few information from my own experience there. And that starts from the question of the way that in Nigeria, we do not often go back to our history. And we should not forget that Nigeria is a nation that was put together by the British. I mean, up to 1914, you had two separate nations, and each nation is a conglomerate of different nations. So we shouldn't forget that complexity that we have in Nigeria. That is one. What I would also advise young people to do is to go back to read our history. And I think our previous speakers, they've really underscored this, the need to know our history, the need to understand where we are coming from, the need to remember, for instance, NIFOR, the Nigerian Institute for Oil Palm Research, where the palm oil estates where the Malaysians came, learned, went away, and now we import from them. And a lot of all these other situations that are in Nigeria. Then there's also the question of a cultural revival. They say he who does not have a past cannot have a future. We tend not to go back to look at our cultural past because we have been brainwashed by the British system to believe that anything that is traditional to us is of the devil, or it's primitive, or it's not good enough. And that's one of the issues that still ties us very much down, the question of that cultural colonialism that we still suffer from in the Nigerian context. Then also the question of education, the kind of education that our young people are given, the kind of what they think they should look up to within the Nigerian system. And I'm happy that, you know, a lot of these things, two previous speakers went through them repeatedly and brought them all out. And to close up, one thing I would like to know is that young people need to go back now to read up on where Nigeria has been. The question of the Lome Conventions, our relationship with Europe, the question of how the financial capitals influence what happens within the Nigerian system. You cannot expect to develop when somebody else comes in to do things for you. They will come in with their own interests in front. So what normally happens within the Nigerian system is even those industries that are in Nigeria are usually foreign owned. And so it's foreign interest. All they're interested in is taking out their profits. The local ones that struggle under them, because there is no support from government, they never get to be anywhere because they don't have that support. And very soon they close up. And this continues to be the reality. And also to realize that within the Nigerian system, for instance, a foreigner can come in to work even where you have Nigerians who could cover that position. That does not happen in Kenya, for instance. Kenyans will never allow any foreigner to come in and take up a job if there is a Kenyan who can do it. Before you can employ anyone from outside the country, you first have to find out if there is a Kenyan who can do it. But in Nigeria, that is not the case. You have people like, you know, they are high school graduates in their country, but because they are white-skinned, they are brought in to come and lord it over Nigerian graduates in Nigeria. So there are so many issues, so many questions that I had written down, but there's no time now to go through all of it. But I just want to congratulate you on this initiative, and I hope that you continue with that. So my last recommendations is question of encouraging government to invest in local industries, invest in youth, quality education, healthcare, social support, and to also address the common illnesses that could easily be cured in Nigeria by Nigerians. When you see Nigerians in the diaspora, you won't believe that they are Nigerians because of what they represent. Everyone wants to be a Nigerian right now outside because of what Nigerians have been able to prove to the world that they are. So we can get a good Nigeria, we can get a developed Nigeria, we can make it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Miss Adesua, you can go ahead and.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here. Because of time, I'll just go straight to the point. When Pastor Ito was talking about the level of greed and selfishness, I believe it's increasing, and I think it's based on fear. We have to be able to come out of this fear. And that fear comes out of people wanting to be relevant, people wanting to not have enough confidence in themselves, not knowing who they are. If you know who you are and you're confident, you're contented with what you are, where you are. And that's one basic thing we lack in Nigeria. Most people are not contented. And that thing comes from your background, your upbringing. It's something we'll have to, if you don't have it, you have to find out. Get people to mentor you, to build up. You must be contented. You must know what it is. And also, things will happen when you're doing things. People will not appreciate you, or they will make you look like you're a fool. Even right now, when you stop by traffic light, people drive past. You're thinking, what's going on? But just do the right thing. Stick to the right thing. In the long run, you're going to be better off for it. You see a bigger picture. You know. The other thing I want to talk about is the solid foundation. We should all try. Education, yes, is important. Most of the things we get in school, in the classroom, they're useful. They're just like a background thing. But most of the things we use are the things we acquire. You know. So meet with people. When you see people who are doing well, who have a solid background, get close to them, find out things, you know. And then I want to encourage people. It's something I've talked about before I've started. I'm teaching, I gather children ages 3 to 15 in my estate, in my neighborhood. And I think most retired people who have time can do that. Gather them, entertain them, then teach them. Teach them morals, Bible principles, all these things that we had, people that were privileged to have this solid foundation, you know, where you are brought up with morals, and so we later found that all these things were Bible-based, you know. So that is going to help. It's going to go a long way. It's a tall order, but it is doable. And as somebody said earlier on, as we have heard from here now, let's take it out. Let's document it. Let's do something about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma, for that. We appreciate everyone here for coming today. And I would like Adebanke to please come up now and tell the people who we are, what we are, and give a brief introduction of ourselves. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Okay. I firstly want to appreciate our guests, our mothers in the house, Professor Grange. Thank you for always. You have always been a call away since we started this Real Advocate. Thank you, Ma. And Missy, thank you so much for your contribution, Ma. We are grateful. And I want to admire I admire your earring. Like, it's speaking Nigeria. And for standing out, I appreciate that, Ma. The pair of earrings are made up of cowries. And like Mrs. Esoge said, that anything Nigeria, like, it's always evil or primitive. So people don't really want to go cultural again. But we're seeing that. I appreciate you, Ma. So the youth wing of ALG, driven by a strong belief in Nigeria and an acute awareness of the socio-political climate, has evolved into Real Advocates. This transformation reflects a commitment to fostering responsible, ethical, accountable leadership within the younger generation. The members of the youth wing recognize the importance of not only identifying their challenges facing their countries, but also actively contributing to its development. The Real Advocates initiative is designed to equip young leaders with the necessary tools to effect meaningful change. By engaging with elders like we have done today with Professor Grange and Missy and other contributors, who are deeply passionate about Nigeria, these young advocates benefit from a wealth of experience and knowledge. The wisdom passed down by these elders provide a strong foundation for the youth to grow into ethical, accountable, and responsible leaders who are prepared to address both the moral and practical challenges of leadership. This mentorship and guidance are essential as it fosters a leadership style rooted in integrity and action, ensuring that the values espoused by the youth wing are not merely theoretical, but are reflected in tangible results. The goal is for we, the Real Advocates, to not only speak about change, but also demonstrate it through our leadership practices, creating a ripple effect that influences both our peers and future generations. In essence, the Real Advocates embody a vision of leadership that is both forward-thinking and grounded in the lessons of the past, preparing the youth to be at the forefront of Nigeria's transformation, where we lead with conviction, responsibility, and accountability in all aspects of governance and societal development. That is what Real Advocate is all about. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Adebanke. I think we have Mr. Said back. So, Mr. Said, before our pastor Sonny comes up to give us the closing remark, please, in 1 or 2 minutes, please just give us a take and comments. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joshua, and good afternoon to you all again. I hope you can hear me now loud and clear. Apologies about the interruption earlier. Is that a confirmation? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can.
Oh,
we
oh,
can.
okay, yeah. Thank you very much. I mean, of course, appreciating the opportunity to speak. Greetings to the leadership of the ALG team, and of course to the special guest speakers today. I mean, the big aunties have said it all, but I would like to just emphasize a few things, which is one, when we talk about education, we must understand there is the formal, there's the informal. So that balance is what is critical for us to be able to make advancement. No doubt the theme of today's conversation reference, the historical lessons from independence. Now, my understanding of my approach to that will be this. What was the vision when the independence was actually instigated or created? So emphasis again on vision. If we're not clear about where we're trying to go or what we're trying to do, we're just going to be caught up in the mix of what everybody else is doing, meaning what's going on. So we have to be very clear and articulate within ourselves. So even as youths, you have to be clear, you have to be articulate. You also have to be patient. Okay. Now we're actually lacking a lot of patience within our youths. We have to be patient to actually make things work. In addition to that, there is no way we can actually write of history, meaning our older citizens. Respect is becoming a thing of the past amongst the youths. We must respect the older citizens, regardless of how advanced technology or the modern world has come to make us feel like, we're doing things a lot faster and simpler. In their era, they had the same thing. It was not just maybe called technology. So we have to recognize our place of respect so we can really be taught. But then we also must find a balance where we understand, even as a country, Nigeria, most of the countries who have emerged as major voices in the last couple of decades, a lot of influence lied on their diaspora. And by diaspora, I'm not bringing out the conversation about the level of exposure experience, but the fundamental of pride in culture. We also have in a situation right now where the diaspora community are not comfortable to identify as a cultural individual. We can identify as Nigerians, but when it comes to a cultural representation, only a few are prideful enough to wear the culture. Meaning what? Even internally, as we continue to build forward, we have to be intentional to understand that the international community would only respect us based on the value we place on ourselves. So my challenge to the youths today is we have to start holding our fellow youths accountable. Those of them who are ambassadors, we must start telling them they have to also represent us from a cultural standpoint. From the language to the dress code, to the food, to the music, even to the references that we make. We have a lot of Nigerian successes. Look at our big aunties here today who spoke. How many of their names are used when conversations are going on in the diaspora? So again, I appreciate this opportunity. A lot has been said. To the youths, do not be overwhelmed trying to figure out where to start. Start from where you have your strongest hold. It's your family, it's your immediate community, it's your state. And before you know it, leveraging the support of individuals like the ALG, we're able to bring the critical mass that have the right vision, aligns with each other, that are patient, that are resourceful, that are informative, come together for us to make the change that we need. So again, a privilege it is. Please do not stop. Let's keep the trend, running. And by God's willing, we shall all meet at the end of the tunnel. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for honoring our invitation. So, Pastor Sunny, I would like you to give us the closing remarks as we end today's session. Thank you very much, sir.
Joshua, please, do you mind if I just have a word? This is to Saeed and Dr. Nelson. They run an organization called Nigerian NAPAC, and they have a youth arm. So I would like to challenge them and to see how we can collaborate with the youth arm of the organization as well to amplify this message and to get it more out there. Thank you.
So good evening again, everybody. And I want to really, all right, Dr. Nelson wants to say
Pastor Sonny,
something again.
yes, Pastors, can I just say a quick word?
Yeah, please go ahead, ma.
I just want to round up with the corruption fever and disease that seems to be consuming us. It is really important for young people to understand how corrosive and destructive corruption is. One of our speakers talked about foreigners being employed. I spoke to Dangote some time ago, why he's always employing Indians. Says they can't trust Nigerians. And I have spoken widely to a number of entrepreneurs. You employ a Nigerian and you have to keep watching every single movement. Whereas you employ a foreigner and you can go to sleep, he will do his work, earn his salary, everybody's okay. So young people, please take it as a cardinal rule and something you are going to exercise in yourself, in your community and your friends to reject it. Everybody must decide that they must be honest. They must be truthful in spite of the consequences or the advantages that they may lose along the way. If we eradicate corruption in our systems, where in the civil service, in the public service, in the businesses and all that, and we all hold each other accountable, and we all decide that, look, we're going to be transparent, and we're going to make this corruption that is killing us out of the system. So that young people, when you see a corrupt public officer, whether it's the governor, House of Rep, Senator, you are not there saying yes, sir, and greeting him and smiling. Let him know. If you know that his activities are tainted with corruption, if he's the Mr. Kogi Bello Yahaya, he should not have any young people following him. And if you know young people around you who are following people who are demonstrably corrupt, face yourselves to say, look, we are not going to allow you to be following this man, or you are no longer our friends. So I just wanted to chip this in because I think it's so important for our young people to understand that this a corrupt attitude, corrupt practices that is killing us. The money that is sent for palliatives is stolen. The money that is supposed to go for road is stolen. So how will we develop? So let us all face individually, collectively, in our family, in the Ransom Kuti family. Let me tell you, our name is so important to us that we don't even, nobody can say they are corrupt in the family. It's the family that will deal with him or her, because we feel that our name is more important than any money that you can come. And everybody in the family, is trained to be independent. So you're not begging from this one. You're not a burden on this one. Find work, whatever level you are, manage it. So, I'm a bit passionate about this. Sorry, I interrupted Pastor Sonny, but I really want our young people to really pay attention to this cankerworm of corruption. It's very insidious. It's little things. So just be very circumspect in everything you do, in everybody around you, wherever you work, wherever you are studying. Make sure that truth is your watchword. When we were young, we didn't need to sign contract. Your word was your bond. If you say you're going to do this, you will do it. You don't, renege. You don't waste other people's time. Say you are going to do it and then you don't do it. Don't tell the person that you can't do it. This is the reason why. So those are those little things that is around the discipline that you need, the allegiance to truth and honesty, and knowing that the Almighty is watching all the time. You are not, whatever it is not hidden. It might be hidden from other people, but it's not hidden for your maker. Let your conscience be your guide. I pray that you young people will define a new Nigeria and root out corruption from our system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jumoke, I wanted to say something. Thank you very much, Auntie MC.
No, sir, I've already challenged Said and Dr. Nelson on engaging the youth. Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, Jumoke. My job really is to thank every one of you for this very, very incisive and important topic. I think it's very important that we continue to coach and educate our youths on where we are coming from. I may not be in the bracket of Auntie Yemisi and Professor Grange, but suffice me to say that at least I grew up to meet a bit of the values, character, integrity that we held there in Nigeria. I lived in a Nigeria where our word was our bond, like Auntie Yemisi said, and it was very important that things were not always this bad and scattered. There was the collective rather than the individual in those days. When we went to school with the children of the commissioners of education, the minister of health, the PAMSEC. We are all in the same set of schools. So if there was a problem, it was not to take my child to a private school that was the solution. It was to fix that problem in the public school, because that was where everybody was. The children that went to private schools were very few. I grew up in Kaduna and we had about 3 private schools, Capital School then, one other school. Why? How do I know? Because we always meet at Independence Day, when we go for those parades and all those things. So our history is important. There's a lot more that can be said. And like somebody suggested, sometimes I think we need to either bring history back to school or gather our children and tell them. Because sometimes when I talk to my children, and my children are in their 20s, they're old enough, when I tell them about some of the histories in Nigeria, they're like, Daddy, in Nigeria, this happened. I say, yes, it happened. So it's a very good thing. I want to thank the youth of ALG that have decided to go down memory lane. And I'm sure you have had a few things. You yourself can probably write the things you've had down and then try to interrogate them better. I want to thank our main speakers today, Auntie Yemisi and Mommy Grinch. Thank you very much for making yourself available to give us some of this background and history. Thank our president, Pastor Ichwa Ighodalo, Jumoke, for coordinating the youths, and all the coordinators in the youths that have, spent time to put this together. Joshua, I have not seen, Jumoke, what's her name? The young lady that
Yetunde.
Yetunde, yeah.
Yeah. No, she's not able. No, she's not here today.
Okay, great. Thank you all very much for your time. I believe it was a time well spent. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Pray for Nigeria in church tomorrow, that our glory days will return, and we believe it can return. God bless you all. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate. So we hope to see everyone here in the next program, next November edition. Have a lovely night rest, everyone. Bye-bye from Nigeria.
And good afternoon from California. And please share. We'll make the recording available. This needs to go out. We need more participation from youths around the world, Nigerian youth. So please be one of our advocates and help share this broadly. Thank you so much, Auntie, and thank you so much, Mommy. Thank you so much for always being there, for supporting, for your love, as Mr. President has said earlier. We really appreciate you. God bless you.
Thank you all. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Cheers,
night.
everyone.
Everyone. Bye.